Hey, it's Debbie here. I hope that whatever you're up to today, you're having an easy one and a light one and a fun one. I am really excited about today's interview because it is with a woman who I spoke with initially in January of 2018. She said, "Hey, I want to flip houses." And guess what? She actually did the thing. She's on project number 3 as of the time of this recording. So stay tuned and listen to Kate Fulford's story about how she has navigated her first 3 flips.
You're listening to the Flip Houses Like a Girl podcast, where we educate, empower, and celebrate everyday women who are facing their fears, juggling family and business, embracing their awesomeness, and wholeheartedly chasing their dream of flipping houses. Each episode delivers honest-to-goodness tools, tips, and strategies you can implement today to get closer to your first or next successful house flip. Here's your spiky-haired, breakfast taco-loving host, house flipping coach, Debbie DeBeery.
All right. I first talked to Kate in January of 2018. So fast forward, 18 months, and now she is about to list her 3rd flip. She's awesome, y'all. So she is in Portland, Oregon, which, by the way, is an expensive and tight market. So stop using those as excuses. She's a mom. She has 2 kids and a husband. And she's also a real estate broker. So she's busy and she's still making it work. It's all about your mindset and your priorities. So let's jump in here and listen to part of Kate's journey. I love that we've come full circle. I do. I think it's really cool that we're getting to have this follow-up call 2 years later, and you actually did the thing, because a lot of people don't go do the thing. So
yeah, that's what it seems like,
yeah,
but
yep,
it's like, I'm a doer. I've always
yeah,
been a doer.
yep,
I decide to do something, I do it.
yep.
Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it does, but you got to go for it.
I know it seems so simple because I have that same kind of attitude, and it's amazing how that attitude isn't the norm. It's like, what's the difference there? It's very interesting for
Yeah,
sure.
it is a really, really interesting psychology,
Yeah.
because it's just the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
Either you're telling the story like, oh my God, I'm going to go for it. I can do it. And even if I don't succeed, it's fine. I learned something. Or you can say, I'm scared. I don't think I can do this. And then you never do it.
Exactly.
Probably that
Exactly.
simple.
It really is. Okay. You want to just jump in?
Yeah. So do you want me to talk to you about my first flip?
Yeah. Let's start with your first flip and give us some details about it.
Okay. So, after talking to you, I mean, you really kind of hit me on the head at the right moment in time in terms of your ad showing up when I needed to see it.
Isn't that crazy?
And then we had our conversation, and I just decided this is exactly what I should be doing.
Yes.
I'm a real estate agent, as you know, and I love decor and I love transformation. And, I've owned clothing boutiques in my life, and I just like sort of dressing up, whether it's myself or somebody else or a home. And so it just felt like in my real estate career, which I love, I was missing a creative outlet. And designing flyers and stuff don't really count to me, although I do like to do that. So when the idea of flipping houses entered my purview, I just got really, really jazzed. And after talking with you, I realized I have everything I need to do this. And just sort of laying down the groundwork. I met with several hard money lenders to talk about how they work and what I need to do to prepare. And then I signed up for a lot of email lists for wholesale deals
Nice.
And then, of course, I looked on the RMLS, which I sort of knew wasn't going to be where I found something, but I figured there's probably some gems hidden in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did other things like sending out a postcard to certain houses that I picked that looked dilapidated and that somebody had lived in for a really long time. And I tried different tactics, but ultimately how I found my first one is through a wholesale email that I received.
Okay. You got the email.
I got the email, and they had an open house for 1 hour,
mm-hmm.
and offers were going to be due that night at 5. So I arrived at this house. It's in a good neighborhood. It looked from the pictures like it might have been immaculate and just badly designed or, bad finishes. And I arrived and I thought, this house is darling. From the outside, it looks immaculate. I don't even need to paint it. The door is the bright red that I would do anyway.
Wow.
The roof looked good. And I thought, okay. And then inside I could immediately sort of visualize some stuff I would change. And so walking through, there was probably about 4 to 5 other parties walking around, all with big, trucks outside, contractor types. And here I show up in my normal little car, just by myself.
I love it.
And the owner was there, that it was working with the wholesaler, and I was chatting with her.
That's unusual.
I thought it was unusual too.
Yeah.
And she was a sweet old lady, and her husband had passed away, and she wanted to move back to San Diego to live with her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was just kind of hanging out, and all this activities going on.
Uh-huh.
And what was unusual about the situation also was that, and it worked in my benefit for this, is that she wanted a rent back. So we closed fairly quickly,
nice.
But she wanted to stay there for a while because she wasn't quite ready to move, which meant I got all this time to do contractor visits and get bids. And,
that's crazy.
I know. I realized how special this first flip really was.
Yeah, that's not normal.
It's not. I knew it, and I knew it wasn't. I just was like,
yeah.
I know that I'm getting really, really lucky right now.
Right.
So they told me, several people were interested, and that they were just going to pick the highest offer. And and it was priced pretty tight. It was like on the edge of, this is the right price, but I really wanted it because I could tell this had the makings of a quick, relatively easy job.
Yep.
Just flooring and surfaces and, and light fixtures and paint. And I thought, you know what, I don't care if I don't make the amount of money I should make on a flip, according to all the books and what everyone says, because to me, I just wanted to do one. I wanted one under my belt. I wanted the experience. And even if I made $1,000, I was going to go for it.
I hear that. I hear that often. Like really, I think the goal of the first flip is to do it in a way that makes you want to do it again. That's the goal.
Yeah.
And it looks totally different to everybody. That looks different to everybody. But if you go in with that attitude, it's like, okay. And also it takes off a lot of pressure. The perfectionism that we are all striving for usually.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. So, despite all the books saying you need to make this percentage and that percentage and blah, 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 I just said, you know what? I am going to make money on this. I can just tell.
Yep.
And I'm just going to go for it. And so I bought it for, let me look this up because I forgot exactly how much I spent on it. I bought it for $465,100.
What was the asking price?
I think it was $460. It wasn't, I didn't go that much over.
Yeah. Okay.
But I thought, some people are going to go for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are going to go $465, somewhere between there. And I'm just going to add that 100.
I love it.
That helps me.
Yeah.
And it worked. So
yep. That's awesome.
I don't know what other people offered. I never found out, but I was like, okay, I'm going to go for this. And I was planning to list it around $565.
Okay.
And so I, my budget was 25,000
Okay. Wow.
to, to,
Nice.
to do the
That's
work.
yeah.
And I will tell you this, I don't know how this happened. I feel like I actually have some weird knack for this because the budget came in at $25,207.74.
Wow. Nice.
Now, that's
That's
not to
awesome.
say I had issues come up. I just
Right.
shifted, I made choices and
Right.
I'll tell you this, when I started having contractors in to give me bids, and I had this idea, I'm going to knock down the wall between the kitchen and the dining room and open it up because I know people love that look.
Mhm.
And it had, I just felt like that would be a great way to manage the bottom floor.
Mhm.
And I started getting, people were like, well, this is, you can only cut out the middle of the wall. These walls are structural. And I was like, okay, my goal was, I don't want to have to pull a permit for anything.
Right.
I just want to do cosmetic work. I don't want to be delayed
Right.
because I'm trying to get this done like in a month.
Right.
That was my timeline.
Yep.
And so I made a lot of choices. I realized like, okay, even though this could be cool, it's not necessarily going to pay for itself.
Right.
I'm still going to list the house for the same amount of money. It's not going to add necessarily that much more value having this open. So I just kept making decisions like that. I had to rein myself in because I start out with these grand ideas and then I'd say, nope, I don't need to do that. I really don't need to do that. And so I was going to, there was a lot of original hardwood floors on the second floor, which were great. I just kept those as is. The main floor had giant red brick looking tile in a herringbone pattern that looked almost like an exterior tile.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, this is going to cost a lot to rip up, but I want to put hardwood floors in here. And the kitchen had like old gross vinyl. And one of the contractors, some of them were giving me bids for that. And one of the guys said, why don't you just put down LVP right on top of this? And I was like, what? Tell me more about that. Because I didn't really know a lot about it. And he's like, yeah, you can just put this flooring right on top. There's a million different choices out there. They look a lot like wood. They're durable. They're waterproof. And I was like, I'm sold on this.
Right.
And so I ended up saving a lot of money out of my own ideas, by going with a smarter idea.
Yeah.
The thing, I probably could have got this done quicker, but one thing in the kitchen, at this price range in the a little over $500,000, I really wanted to put nice quartz countertops.
Right.
And so that took the longest of anything, just having the, because I bought them at IKEA during their kitchen sale. And so everything took a little bit longer. So it took longer to have the template made. It took longer to have the installation. And so that was sort of what drove the entire timeline for the countertops.
Wow.
But everything else sort of got done quickly and easily. And, I had some surprises. For example, there was a couple deck boards on the back deck that were rotted. And when my contractor started taking those off, he found out that a lot of the structure underneath was rotted. So he said, this whole thing needs to come out. I was like, what? I didn't budget for a new deck.
Right.
But, I really can't remember like what maybe I was going to come in under budget or something. I can't remember what I changed to do that, but that was kind of the biggest little issue that came up. And then a couple minor light fixture situations. For example, this person who owned the house had literally every single light fixture, multiples in a room, were ceiling fans, and there was an AC.
Wow.
So it was a little bit of overkill, and I'm not a fan of ceiling fans, especially dated ones. So I was going to take all of those out and put in really cool light fixtures. And one of them was not hooked up to a switch because it ran on a remote. So it was just wired directly into the fixture. And so that, at the last minute, that was one of the last things. And then I had to cut into the wall, get the drywall repair and the paint, So a couple things, silly things like that happened that I didn't account for. But I was and then I listed it for $559.
Okay.
And I ended up getting, let me look. Let me go back. I got 569. So I got a
Nice.
10K over asking offer.
Awesome.
And yeah. And I ended up netting, after the hard money costs and all that, about a little over $25,000.
That's awesome.
For
a flip that required 25 grand in work. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was quick. It was basically, I owned it. I did this work in about a month. I got an offer in about 12 days. And then there was, your standing escrow time.
Right.
And so I felt like this is, and plus I got a commission off myself.
Right. Right. So does 25K include the commission?
No, and then I got the commission on top of that.
Wow. That's awesome. So really? So yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. See, I think real estate agents should be flipping houses.
Really, I know everybody that I know is like, wait, can I talk to you about this? Can I take you out to coffee?
Right.
I'm like, sure.
Right.
Absolutely. Because I ended up making a little over 40 grand on this. And
that's awesome.
I figured if I could do 3 of these a year, that's great.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that, because I feel like a lot of people have an idea in their mind that they have to flip a ton of houses each year. And that sounds exhausting. I don't want to flip a ton of houses each year. I'm beyond that. I'm like in, a kid, and I want time freedom and all of the beauty that comes with being self-employed. So yeah, it's like, no, you don't have to flip that many houses a year. Even if you do one, an extra 40 grand is a pretty sweet payday. Like that's a pretty nice bonus for the year.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And plus, if it's something that you totally enjoy, like I had so much fun doing this, and I learned so much. And I just feel every time I do one, I'm on my 3rd right now. It's going to go live next week. I feel so much more confident. And now I'm knowing where to cut costs and where not to. And there's always some random hodgepodge thing that comes up that I have to like come up with a solution for. And it's fun. I like being in a project.
Yes. I love the problem solving piece. I think it adds like a nice layer that isn't just aesthetics. It's like, oh yeah, okay, now I get to solve this puzzle. Okay, that is super awesome. Now, so you've been an active real estate agent. I think you're active for about 6 years, right?
Yeah, I'm on, gosh, I'll be starting my 7th year shortly.
Okay. Yeah. Did you start flipping just because you wanted to try it, or are you trying to wean yourself from clients, or what exactly? Or did you just want to try it?
Good question. Well, like I said, I wanted to add like a more creative aspect to my career.
Right.
But I also think that this is a nice way to sort of hedge. I'm basically a part-time real estate agent because I have 2 young kids, and I try to work around the schedule. I try to work while they're at school.
For sure.
Basically.
Yep.
And, and I have to do certain things on weekends and the evenings now and then, but I'm not trying to be, some superstar agent who's got a gazillion deals going on.
Right.
That's not my vibe. That's not how I work. I only work with referrals. I'm not out there marketing myself and doing all this stuff because I don't really want to be that busy.
Yeah.
But I wanted to boost my income. And I thought, this is something I have complete control over.
Right.
Like, I don't know when someone's going to buy or sell their house that I know.
Right.
These things just pop up randomly, and I stay pretty busy year round. And, I'm happy with that part of my business, but I just wanted to turn up the volume. Yeah. And so to me, this was a way to do that and do something that I thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah.
And I also thought it would sort of hedge times coming up where the real estate business might take a turn.
Right.
And if I can be doing something like this, when the market squeezes, then that'll be cool.
Totally. I think it's ever since I started flipping, 11 years ago, I think. It's like every agent I talk to, I'm like, you need to be flipping houses. You have
Yeah.
you are in prime position. And not just because you have access to all this data and knowledge and experience and stuff, but because it's smart to have multiple streams of income. If you're just relying
Yeah.
on brokerage income, then the faucet turns off and what are you going to do? Like, it's just,
Right.
it's so, it feels stressful to me to operate that way. So, well,
Yeah.
I'm super excited for you. So you're on flip number 3. Now,
Yes.
did you buy your second and third flip from wholesalers as well?
Let's see. Let me look at my second flip, which I bought this last spring and sold early summer, was a pocket listing.
Oh,
So
nice.
I got an email forwarded to me from a colleague
Mhm.
who, an agent from another office had sent him. And I said, oh, it was a couple going through a divorce, and their house was just a hoarding, kind of hideous, no maintenance nightmare.
Mm.
And they just wanted to kind of get their money and go without having to deal with each other and without having to deal with fixing up the house. So I went and looked at it and I thought, okay, this has a lot of potential. And but I ran the numbers and the price they were asking, it wasn't going to work for me.
Mhm.
So I said, no, I'm going to pass on this one. So then, because several other agents were going to look at it too. And then he called me back about a week later and said, what price would work for you? And I told him, and he said, I think I can make that happen. So we got into a contract, and because it was sort of a normal contract, I didn't have to use the one-page wholesale kind of scary situation. I got to use my forms that I'm already using. I got to manage it as if it was a regular transaction. I did a full inspection.
Nice.
Yep. And I found out the roof needed to be replaced. So I said, I want to lower the price because the roof, there's mold up there. You guys have had leaks and and we might have to replace a lot of the plywood, and that's an unknown, and I don't want to take that risk. And so I got a big price reduction for that.
Nice.
And then I was able to do the roof for less, so that was nice.
Nice.
But and I learned a big learning that I had on the first one was the woman left a bunch of crap, like weird stuff. I mean, it was basically cleaned out, but she left like a super heavy desk in one of the bedrooms upstairs, and she left like an old giant non-flat screen TV.
Oh gosh.
Like an ancient one from the 80s.
Right.
In the garage. All this stuff was in the basement that I had to deal with, and that someone who lived there used to work on cars, so there was all these like auto part type things and oil and all this weird stuff. And it cost me a lot of money to get rid of that crap. And I mean, I was posting stuff on Nextdoor, like, come on over and walk through my basement and take whatever you want. And people were taking stuff, but I still had to deal with getting rid of heavy items that had to be moved out. So on this next house, when I saw that these people were definite hoarders and there was a ton of crap everywhere, and I thought, they're going through a divorce, they're just going to leave their crap.
Right.
And I don't want to deal with it. So I wrote it into the contract that every single personal item must be removed before closing. And it was a good thing because it was, there was a lot of crap. Yeah. And I felt like I could just start working without dealing with that.
Right.
So that was a nice thing to learn.
Yeah.
So
on your first flip, did you finance everything through a hard money loan, or did you have to use some of your own money?
Well, the way I did it and the way I've been doing all of these is hard money. I found a hard money lender that will loan me 90% of the price of the house.
Yep.
And I need to only put 10% down, and then they charged me an abhorrent 16% interest.
Oh gosh.
But no points. So
Oh,
it ends up
nice.
being a better deal
Yeah.
than paying, because I'm turning these around so quickly.
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
prepaying three. I'm prepaying 3 months, and
Okay.
so far on both of them I've gotten money back because I closed within 3 months.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'd much rather pay
So
60% interest and no points. That's
right,
yeah,
because I did
right.
the numbers and I would pay more, and
Oh,
so
absolutely. Yeah.
if this was like a 6 month project or something, I'd probably do it the other way. But
Right.
my guy even told me, if it's 4 months or less, you're better off doing 16%. And then the repairs I do myself, because I don't want to deal with, having to submit receipts and
Yeah.
all this kind of crap. I just want to
Right.
kind of do it myself. And
Yep.
I've been using my HELOC on my home. So I haven't
That's
used a
right.
dime of my own money. I've
Nice.
just been using the hard money and the HELOC.
That's awesome. That's so smart. Tapping into money that is just sitting there. Yes.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah. I
smart.
love it.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
didn't realize I could do that. Like, years ago, I remember somebody saying, you should flip houses because they just like my style and my
Uh-huh.
decor. And I thought, oh, well, how could I do that? I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting around.
Right.
But it's
Well, and
nice
then
when
when
you come to the realization, like, yes, you can.
yes, but then when people start saying, "Well, you can do this for no cash out of pocket," it's like, "Okay, that sounds scammy." And it's like, "No, it's really not. Like you really can.
Yeah,
You really
you really
can."
can.
Yeah, I know. That's so funny. Okay, that's awesome. I love that you're doing it that way. And then did you act as your own GC or did you have a GC managing the project?
I acted as my own. We did a bathroom addition in my house a few years ago, and I hired a GC who was a woman, and who I loved. And I designed it. I picked out all the finishes and everything. And she I actually hired my own plumber just because I like him so much. But she had everything else, and she gave me the timeline and the budget. And I was, obviously there every day watching this
Right.
happen. And I just learned from this, and I thought, well, I could do this.
Right.
I know the order that things need to go
Yep.
in, a bathroom, pretty much the most complicated thing, except for a kitchen. And so I thought, okay, yeah, I think I could manage this myself. And I work with a large network of contractors as a
Yep.
real estate agent,
Right.
but I have a plumber I love. I found a handyman on Nextdoor who ended up being a great member of my team,
Good.
and he could kind of just do anything. And then
Yes.
I found a contractor, was like the guy who did my floor and the tile. He was a guy from my network at work, and now he's my main guy. Like, I call him on everything. And
Mhm.
if I'm even considering buying a house, I have him come out with me, and he goes over, what we could do. And he was one of the smart ones when I was bidding out my first job, who said, I wouldn't do that for, and I would do this. And he
Okay.
saved me so
Yeah.
much money by just
Yes.
giving me a better solution. And so I really trust him.
Yes.
And he also would say, like, I don't know if you need to take down this wall.
Yep.
And then I ended up just coming up with a fun solution that made the house look super cute. But yeah, so I feel really confident in the team that I've assembled. And so far, everyone's working great. Oh, and a painter I found on a Facebook group called Mobs, which is mom-owned businesses.
Oh, nice.
And she was just starting her business with her husband, and she's been with me on every flip now too. I feel like her
Awesome.
prices are great. I trust her. It's just so nice to have a team that I like and that like me and that want to do good, that do great work at
Yes.
great prices. And it just feels, because that's one thing that also can stop people, I think. It's like, I don't know anybody who would do the
Right.
work. And when you
Right.
when you have your team, it feels so good.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And also, I don't think it's as hard as a lot of people anticipate it being. If you ask
No.
around, like ask people for recommendations, ask realtors. Please ask realtors because we have to know these things. We have to give our clients recommendations of vendors and stuff. So I think realtors it's so smart to ask realtors for those things, but Maybe I'm just
Yeah,
biased.
absolutely. And I mean, look at the hodgepodge places. I mean, I found some from
Right.
my fellow
Yeah.
colleagues, and I
Yeah.
found some online who are like
Right.
my main. And then one guy, my plumber, is my cleaning lady's husband,
I
and
love
so
it.
he did, and so he's just great. He knows me well. We've known each other for years, and they're just such great people, and I know I can always trust him. And he also comes up with great, clever solutions to problems where other people want to jackhammer things and do all kinds of crazy expensive stuff, and he's like, well, why don't you just do this? And it's like something very elegant and simple. And so
I
that's
love
what I
it.
like about contractors, when they
Yeah.
come up with simple, less expensive solutions.
Right. Save me money and make it look great.
Yes,
Co-
yes.
Completely. Are you focusing on certain areas of Portland, or are you going with basically, if a deal looks good, are you looking at the numbers, or are you looking for deals in specific areas? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
For the
does.
difference. Okay.
I'm kind of looking for deals anywhere in Portland, because it's still a pretty hot market
Yeah,
anywhere in the sort of close-in metro area.
sure.
What I find is that the limit I put on myself is, how long does it take me to drive to this house? Because,
Yep.
as a realtor, I drive around enough. I don't want
Right.
to, because sometimes I'm there every day checking in or doing a little something. And I don't want to waste a lot of time driving to something that's a little too far away. So there's about a 15-minute drive limit I've imposed on myself, because there's some outlying city areas around Portland that could probably be a gold mine for some really cool projects,
Yeah.
but it might be a half-hour drive each way, and then you add traffic, and I could get stuck out there, and I just don't want to deal with that.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
try to stay.
Amen.
I mean, I was looking at one before the one I'm doing right now popped up and just ended up being such a good deal. I decided to go for it, but I was costing out one and sort of watching it and trying to figure out, it was listed on the RMLS, and I was going to do a lowball offer. It'd been on the market for a really long time, and I had my numbers put together, and it was a place I could walk to from my house.
Oh
And I
gosh.
really liked the idea of
Yeah.
it being that close.
Yeah.
But it's now, I thought, well, if it's still available after I finish this one, maybe I'll consider it. But it's gone pending, so somebody else is going to fix her up. But that's fine.
So, okay, so the first one you found through a wholesaler. The second one was an off-market listing or a pocket
Yep.
listing with a realtor. And what about this
Yep.
third one?
This one is also from a wholesaler, a different
Okay.
wholesaler.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so there are deals out there. Anyone who's listening to this,
there
are deals out there. The wholesalers, are you finding, is it the same wholesaler that you bought the first one from, or a different one?
No, it's a different one.
Okay. Are you finding that they are accurate in their numbers, and are there the prices that they're asking for these properties, are they pretty reasonable?
Well, that's a good question, because the one that I bought the first one from, they always put together they'll say, here's the price, here's the repairs you need to do, and it'll say like roof X dollars, flooring X dollars, window, they'll itemize everything and then put the ARV and how much you would make. Well, and then they put together a pro forma, and it's usually, I think, way off, way under,
Yeah.
and the ARV is sometimes way over.
Uh-huh.
The price to do everything is way under.
Right.
And they always assume that you're going to sell it in 30 days. And I said,
Right.
well, it's not necessarily going to happen in 30 days anymore.
Right.
The market has shifted. So I always have to adjust everything. But this person that I bought the most recent one from, he doesn't include any of that. You got to do that yourself. And it was kind of a gut thing, I think it's a unique, the property is not perfect. It's got some issues that may come up, and the bedrooms are pretty small. But what I like about it, and what I know a lot of people are looking for, is it has a little basement apartment.
Oh,
and,
cool.
So somebody could live in the upper level, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 full baths.
Wow.
And then it has a 2-bedroom, full bath apartment with a
Wow.
separate entrance and its own little kitchenette. And so I thought people love this idea because they can Airbnb it
Heck
and help
yeah.
pay for their mortgage.
All day long. That sounds like a
Yeah,
gold
so I
mine.
thought, I know this might even, I mean, my husband and I like, should this be a buy and hold? But
Right.
it, you know, and if it doesn't sell for what I want, then I'll go down that path. But I just kind of, you know, the interest is so high, and you know, I don't know if I want to deal with it. But
Yeah.
anyway,
That's
so
awesome.
it was just had a unique feature that I felt
Yeah.
like, and I could just, any house I look at, and I look at, you know, a decent amount, not a ton come by my computer that could work, but when I do check them out, I need to be able to sort of visualize what I'm going to do. So
Yes.
if I can walk in and be like, oh yeah, I can change
Yeah.
this is going to be awesome, and this is all I need to do.
Yeah.
And if I walk in and I'm like, I don't know what the hell to do with this. This is
Right.
a total nightmare. I can't even, my brain can't even wrap around what I would do with this.
Right.
Then I just close the door and walk away.
Good for you. I think that's like, honestly, I think that's one of the biggest lessons people have to learn is to walk away. Just
Yeah.
walk away. Be okay with not every deal working out. As much as you want it to, and as much as I want it to for you, you've got to be willing to walk away.
Yeah. So
That's
true.
hilarious. That's so funny. So I guess I have a couple of questions. One is,
Okay.
has your husband been totally supportive the whole time, or is he a little bit more risk averse?
No, he's very supportive, and
Yeah.
he knows. I mean, he's not the handiest dude, and neither am I. I mean, I basically don't do anything myself. There's a few minor things, and I'm picking up some new skills on this new one. But he wants, his goal is that he and the kids both contribute somehow to each of my flips. And so the kids on the first one came and they helped me rake up a bunch of leaves in the backyard and lay out some mulch.
That's so
And
cool.
then you know, my husband will do, you know, little things like, you know, hanging some towel bars and like, you know,
Yeah.
changing out the doorknobs and, you know, kind of small handymanish stuff that, you know, he can just do. So
I love
this one
that.
that I'm working on, yeah, I like it too. I like that because he's busy with his own career, so he
Yeah.
doesn't have a ton of time to help me out. But he really wants to. He doesn't want one to go by where he doesn't actually do some work on it. So
That's so
he'll
sweet.
be doing. We're going to do the finishing touches this weekend. You know, just putting up things like towel bars, and there's one more doorknob to change out, and I need to finish. I'm doing something unusual on this one. And what I discovered on my second flip was a guy I found on Facebook. Again, I find people
Uh-huh.
in unusual places.
Uh-huh.
He does this really cool epoxy coating on top of an old countertop, like,
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
say a
Yeah.
crappy,
Yeah.
right? And it looks like quartz,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it costs $300. And so I
Right.
thought, I'm in love with this idea. It looked
Yeah.
amazing. Everyone was like, what is this? Oh my
Yeah.
God, I love this. And it just looked so sharp. So I thought, well, of course I'm going to use him on this current flip. And I had the
Yeah.
2 kitchens to do.
Right.
So, you know, I had him all scheduled on the day that he was coming in, and I told him, just do exactly what you did on that last flip. I love the color. It was perfect. And he said, okay. And I had sent him pictures, and he comes in, he calls me, and he says, I can't do my coating on these countertops. And I said, what? Why? And he said, well, because the formica, the layer on top is there's been some damage, and it's lifting up from the
Oh.
sub layer. And
Oh.
so I just can't guarantee I'm not going to be able to do it. Like he just said, it just, who knows what kind of problems could come up. And so he said, what you really need to do is just replace these. And I was like, what? Come again? Because
Right.
I don't like some of the hideous choices they have that I can get today,
Right.
because otherwise, you know, I can't custom order anything because it's too late.
Right.
So I just took a leap of faith on the, you know, I had already painted the cabinets like a pale gray,
Uh-huh.
and I was going to do gold hardware. So I found something on Home Depot. I literally haven't seen it in person. He's installing it today. That has some kind of grayish, it was whitish grayish, and I'm hoping it looks good. We'll see, because I just had to like give up my idea of exactly how it would look and be like, it'll be fine. It'll be totally fine. And then the basement, I was doing black cabinets, and I wanted it to kind of have this cool hip vibe, because it's going to be an Airbnb most likely. And I didn't think that countertop would look good with the black. So I thought, what the hell can I do here?
Yeah.
It's a tiny little kitchen. It's only an 8-footer. There's no stove or anything. And I said, you know what? I've been also following on Facebook a paint called Heirloom Traditions that people use to paint cabinets. It's all in one. And I used it and I really like it. And it did a beautiful job on the cabinets. And so I thought, I'm going to freaking paint these countertops black, and the whole thing's going to be like a sexy black kitchen.
Oh, cool.
So,
I want to see pictures of that.
So I will show you. So
Yeah.
I did one coat, and I was like, this is going to work, because people were doing it, and I'm on a Facebook group where people are showing their projects.
Nice.
And I just looked up black countertops, and I saw this woman did it, and I thought, damn, that looks good. And she said it worked great. And so that's what I'm doing.
That is super cool. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, it's an experiment. So I thought, well, the worst thing that could happen is if it doesn't work, I can use that same kind of crappy other one, or, even though it won't look as good.
Right. Exactly.
So,
if it doesn't work, make a different decision. It'll be fine. Yeah. I love that you're willing to experiment.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's kind of fun. I thought, if this works, then there's an even less expensive solution for,
right.
And I don't think I would use that maybe in the main house. And it's probably like I probably wouldn't use that sort of solution very often.
Yeah.
But if it works and it's for little things like this, it might be great.
Yeah. So did you have any kind of fears or anything, like any sort of limiting beliefs, like I can't do this, I wouldn't be successful at it, or I'm too scared? Or did you have anything mindset wise that was at all holding you back?
I don't think anything was holding me back, because I sort of have, like I said, I'm sort of a natural risk taker. I've opened a couple shops in my life.
Yep.
I sort of when I didn't get into the college I wanted to, I didn't take that no for an answer, and I wrote him and told him I was coming and to figure it out. So I don't
figure it out.
I kind of go, if I want something, I make it happen. And that's just kind of how I am.
Yep.
And, but that doesn't say I don't have fears. I mean, there's certain nights I'll lie awake just going, oh my God, what if this? And if I don't get an offer right away, I freak out and oh my God, I risked my family money on this. And what if I lose it? And what if, but it doesn't stop me from doing it. I have to just sort of remind myself, it's going to be fine.
Yep.
It's going to be fine. And and that's a learning process for me, is to quiet my mind when it gets out of control like that, and just remind it that it's going to be fine. You've always been fine. You come up with solutions if there's a problem, and you'll deal with it.
Yep. Exactly.
So,
exactly. Everything is figure outable, right?
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I love hearing about your projects and the success you've had. And mainly, I love that you love it, because I think that when you're doing something you love so much, it's just such a great feeling. It feels so good. And it doesn't mean that problems don't come up and things don't feel scary and some days are harder than others. It's just a different feeling when you are totally loving what you do.
It really is. It feels so joyful.
Yeah.
And it's something so, it's so fun to share.
Yeah.
People love to see the before and afters, and and it's something that anyone can appreciate, because a lot of people have jobs where you really don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
If they're doing some kind of strategy or something on their computer, and they're doing tough work, but it's hard for people to know what they're doing. But this is a fun part of my job to share with people, and they can just get it. And it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's fun. It's a fun part of my life that other people enjoy as well.
Yes, they do. People love hearing about and seeing before and after photos. They love talking about it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's just so fun. I love them too. I'm
I know.
obsessed with them.
I know. I know.
I love a good makeover.
Yeah. Is there any advice that you would give to a first timer who maybe they really want to flip houses and they're scared, or anything like that before I let you off the phone?
I mean, I would probably say exactly what you would say, which is just got to go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very awesome and fulfilling. And,
Yeah.
if you have that interest in it, do a little research.
Yeah.
Get yourself, get yourself in a place where you feel you have enough knowledge that you can just get started, and know
Right.
that the whole thing will be a learning experience, but it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's putting you in the right direction towards your dreams.
Yeah, totally.
And the only way to learn is to just go for it.
You got to do it.
Like anything in life,
You
you
rip
got to
off the
do it.
Band-Aid. Yep. You got to rip off
And
that
there's,
Band-Aid.
problems will come up. It's inevitable, but
Yeah.
you just figure it out. And
Yeah.
it's ultimately really fun. And so, yeah, I would just say go for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with me. And I love hearing your stories. And again, I appreciate you taking the time out to share your stories with us.
Well, I have just been delighted talking with you, and I want to thank you again for placing your ad in front of my face at the right moment, because
Good.
that's kind of what triggered this whole career change.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I do. That makes me so happy. That does. It makes me so happy. The ripple effect. I love it. I
It
love
really is. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Kate. I'm sure I'm going to ask you to come back on when you've finished your next 3 projects over the next year
Yeah.
again. I'm like, you're on fire.
I love it.
I love it. And I look forward to seeing pictures of your next project that you're about to list next week.
I will be placing them on the Facebook page.
Awesome. How can we get people to reach out to you if they need a realtor in the Portland area?
It's very easy. You can just either visit my website at katefulford.com, or you can email me at kate@katefulford.com, and then we can go from there.
Super simple. Yeah. And I will link to those in the show notes so people can reach out to you. All right. Well,
wonderful.
Thank you again for your time and for sharing your stories and your inspiration. I know that people are going to hear this and feel inspired. So thank you for that.
I hope so.
Thank you so much, Kate. Have a great rest of your day.
All right.
All right.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Doesn't that make you just want to go out and flip a house? I know, right? Okay, well, speaking of which, we recently closed on our latest project. Gosh, just a few days ago we closed on it. And you could be a fly on the wall as we renovate this house. Okay, so I'm partnering up with 2 local students, 2 women who are in my coaching program and tribe, and we are renovating a house together. All right, you will get all kinds of live coverage and behind the scenes and tips and tools and strategies that are just going to be invaluable. Okay, go to followthatflip.com. I'll also share that link in the show notes. Again, followthatflip.com and register to be notified anytime I drop a new video or send out a new tool or share something with you. Okay? I think it's going to be about a 5-week project, and I will share 1 to 2 videos each week with you. Okay? And tons of information. All right. I hope to share that journey with you. All right. Go out there, flip houses like a girl, and make it a great day.